How do you teach a language to beginners without overwhelming them, making the process long, and exhausting people with one-to-one classes? How do you make it effective so that students don't consistently go back to dated textbooks, but rather start speaking from day one? If you teach languages online and you're overwhelmed with one-to-one classes, you have maxed out all of your hours and you have no idea how else you can teach languages, especially to beginners, because teaching beginners feels so overwhelming, you're in the right place. And in this video, I'm going to share with you how you can make this process simple and fit it into 12 weeks. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Elena Motonono, and for the past 10 years, I've been helping online language teachers and coaches move away from platforms and exhausting one-to-one online language classes to more sustainable formats so that they can spend less time in the one-on-one setting and make more money by creating programs that are based on voice chats and Google Docs. So let's dive in to how you can teach zero beginners a language using voice chats, how you can do that effectively. Well, first of all, I need to make a point here that if you're teaching absolute beginners, you need to use the mother tongue. So if you are an English speaking teacher who only speaks one language fluently, teaching beginners is not for you. However, if you are teaching multiple languages and you are bilingual, trilingual, then of course I'm sure at some point you have been approached by people who want to learn a language from zero. And as rewarding as it is, the process is also exhausting because you cannot always tell people how long it's going to take, because it takes as long as it takes, right? You know that it's going to take a lot of effort and there will be a lot of learning along the road. And because there's a lot of learning and new materials, a student can potentially get too overwhelmed, which is one of the challenges when you teach. To make this easier on them, many teachers use textbooks, but textbooks quickly get dated and textbooks do not have the information and the motivation for the students, frankly, to start speaking right away. So it seems like the best solution for you would be to create your own program, your own curriculum, and run it. However, sometimes it feels like a headache. How do you do that? Where do you start? Where do you begin? Well, I'm glad you're asking. Actually, in a couple of weeks, I'm releasing my course on how to teach beginners through voice chats. And this course will have a lot of samples and templates that you can just take and apply in your specific situation. It's going to be a course that you can easily return your investment on, and it's the course with a solid language teaching methodology. If you're interested, please check out the link in the description. But here I want to talk about important aspects for your students when they are starting to learn a language with you zero. The first aspect that you want to give to your student to make sure that they enroll is that the course is going to have the beginning and the end. Now, at the end, it's not like they're going to finally learn the language and speak on TED stage. That is not the goal. But if you do not have the ending to your course when a beginner comes to you, it is very likely that they will turn around and leave because of the sheer overwhelm of the process. So make sure when you have students that want to start learning a language from the beginning, you have a package that has a clear end in mind. Even if at the end of this term, and in my case, in the course that I'm preparing, the term will be 12 weeks, the student is not going to be fluent, but at least they have that milestone to work towards. It is very important for your student's brain to feel like there's something doable in front of them and they can move forward. The second really important part of teaching beginners from the zero level is to simplify all the possible information that you can give them, break it down, make it easily digestible, and turn it into templates. Yes, this is really important. Templates in the beginning are really important. They become their foundation on which they will be able to build further. If there are no templates, if there is no understanding of how a sentence works, if there's no building blocks available inside the course, if the building blocks are hidden by trees and bushes of this little course and that little workbook, if people do not see the structure, they are going to easily feel overwhelmed. And it is very common for the students at this stage to be overwhelmed because they are starting from scratch. And it's our goal as teachers to simplify it. The next aspect is samples. So once the student has the template of this is how a structure works, this is how this verb works, this is how this sentence or this question is structured, create samples for your students. So instead of writing it out, since their goal is to speak, you want them to hear and to repeat all of those samples looking at the templates in front of them. That reinforces the template, builds and the skills that are important for them to later actually speak on their own, and it helps them memorize all these building blocks so that they become automatic. The last component for teaching beginners is practice. Practice, practice, practice. Now, if the previous components are things that you can create on your own and deliver in one-to-one classes, maybe group classes, the speaking component, the practice component is something that poses a challenge for a lot of online learners. Because whenever they show up for the one-to-one class, this is where they think their practice takes place. And of course, this is where their practice takes place. But knowing how languages are learned and taught, you and I know that it's so much better for the student to spend 5-10 minutes every day practicing the same structures, the same building blocks, the same templates, than getting together once a week and spending a whole hour going over it. And most of the time, their attention is lost within the first 10-15 minutes anyway. And for that aspect, you want to use voice chats. So once the student has templates and they have samples, now they have an opportunity to practice on their own. And they can do that in the format of voice chats, where they have very structured tasks, tiny little prompts and drills that they record and re-record several times, and you give them feedback on their pronunciation, on their use of vocabulary, on the way their language sounds, which is really important in the beginning. The sooner your student starts using the templates and using them over and over again, the sooner those building blocks become automatic. Once they become automatic, they can build more on this foundation using vocabulary lists and using other expressions that are important. But the foundation of main templates in each language, they don't change. It's the same auxiliary verbs, it's the same structures that can be used in different ways, or where word order might be changed depending on whether it's a statement or a question. All of these things are included in my new course that comes out in a few weeks, How to Teach a Language to Beginners Through Voice Chats. And if you are interested in it, there is a link in the description. The course is 4 weeks long, and because I'm releasing it for the first time, I'm also adding a lot of coaching into it. So there will be a group inside Telegram for us to interact, ask questions, and for me to answer. There's solid methodology behind this course. This is a language teaching methodology to help your students move from 0 to a certain level of speaking confidence. As a bonus to the course, I am adding a section on what to include in your introduction. Any course that you create needs to have an introduction, and the more details you put in the introduction without over delivering, of course, the better results your students are going to get. So there's 5 things that you must include into any introduction of your course, and it's going to be as a bonus in my upcoming course. Also, you will get a bonus conclusion part with all the templates and samples on 3 things that you do after your course is done: how to solicit feedback, how to communicate with your students, and how to make sure that they come back. If you have any questions about teaching language to beginners, please let me know in the comments. And thank you for your time and attention today.